Welcome everybody to the Rhinetown Park Commission meeting of August 20th, 2024. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and justice.
Ruby, our secretary, Debbie Reisner, has a family emergency, and Ruby Tower, our administrative intern, is taking on the role of secretary of the commission for tonight. Ruby, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jason Klein.
Here.
Commissioner Emily Hurd.
Here.
And President Gary Zuckerman.
Call the other names.
Sorry. Commissioner Lindsay Jackson.
She's not here.
Commissioner Josh Cohn.
He's not here.
This is not on. You gotta start from the top. Start from the top.
Okay. Sorry, my microphone wasn't on. Commissioner Jason Klein.
Her mic wasn't on. Please.
Here.
Commissioner Emily Hurd.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay Jackson.
Not here.
Commissioner Josh Cohn.
Not here.
Commissioner Louis Marino.
Not here.
And Park Commission President Gary Zuckerman.
I'm here. The public will notice that I am alone on the dais. Mayor Cohn had previously advised me that he would not be here this evening, and Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Hurd both properly advised me in writing that they had emergencies and would appear by Zoom. The other commissioners, I have not heard from. They are not here. And therefore, we do not have a quorum to conduct a formal meeting. So therefore, there will be no resolutions passed this evening. We do have an item of business that we will attend to. But first, let me ask if there's public comment on non-agenda items. There's nobody in the room for that. Is there anybody on Facebook who wishes to comment, Ruby?
There are no comments on Facebook.
Thank you. Go to our item of business. Tonight, we are pleased to receive our fiscal audit for the year 2023. We have a presentation from PKF O'Connor Davies, Jeff Shaver, partner, who will make the presentation. This will be of record. It is being recorded for future viewing by the commissioners and by the public. Jeff, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Shaver, partner with PKF O'Connor Davies. Happy to be here to present the results of the audit for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2023 for the Rhinetown Park Commission. In terms of the status of the audit is complete. The financial statements have been reviewed by management. We have issued what's known as an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's also referred to as a clean opinion, and that's the most favorable opinion that you can receive. What that means is the numbers and figures in the financial statements are complete and accurately stated, and the note disclosures are also complete and accurately stated. Happy to report we have noted no material weakness in the Commission's internal controls, and no instances of fraud were noted during the conduct of the audit. In terms of management's responsibilities for the financial statements, management is responsible for selecting and implementing appropriate accounting policies, fairly presenting the financial statements in accordance with United States generally accepted accounting principles, establishing effective internal controls, compliance with laws, regulations, provisions of contracts and agreements, of course providing all the records to the auditors, and setting the proper tone at the top. With that, I'm going to go right into the financial highlights. This is the general fund, summary schedule, budget, and actual. This is a 4-column presentation. The first column is the original budget as adopted by the commission. The final budget would encompass any transfers or amendments made during the year. The third column is your actual results, while the fourth column is the variance between the final budget and the actual results. You'll see revenues were budgeted at $1,706,000, while actual revenues for the year, $1,482,000, some $224,000 less than what was anticipated to be collected. On the expenditure side of the budget, it was anticipated $1,695,000 would be spent, while the actual expenditures were $1,762,000. The actual revenues less the actual expenditures resulted in a deficiency of revenues over expenditures in the amount of $279,947. And that was, those amounts were needed to be contributed to the commission by the sponsoring agencies, being the town and the city, in order to prevent the commission from going into a deficit fund balance. After offsetting the opening fund balance for the year of $55,964. So that's a total of $224,000 of transfers. My mistake, $178,000 of transfers from the sponsors, plus a $45,000 transfer in from the capital projects fund, and that was a reimbursement for administrative costs for administering some capital grants. I'm going to show you some details. On the revenue side of the budget, you can see, as I mentioned before, the budget was $1,706,000, while the actual revenues were $1,482,000. You can see the various categories, shortfalls in the parking, beach admissions, rent concessions, federal aid, and some of the other revenues. The primary reason for the deficiencies was the negative impact of the weather during the summer of 2023. It kept people away a little bit as compared to the previous years. So the total revenue deficiency was $223,000. And again, as I mentioned before, the sponsor funding of $178,000 and the transfer in of $45,000 brings you to total revenues and other financing sources of $1,661,000. Some more detail on the expenditure side of the budget. Again, expenditures were budgeted at $1,695,000, while the actual expenditures were $1,762,000, some $67,000 greater than what was anticipated. There was additional payroll costs incurred, and also some miscellaneous costs incurred greater than the budget. And some of those miscellaneous costs are your payroll fees, credit card fees, and those sorts of fees get budgeted in that miscellaneous category.
Jeff, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
In future audits, can we break down the miscellaneous a little bit further too? Because that number, the 44,000, is a fairly large number. It's the second largest deficit that we ran on the expense side. And, you know, one of the things that we really need to do, and I know Debbie's already done this for 2024, is to examine those negative numbers to see how they can be ameliorated.
Yes, we absolutely could. There is detail in the accounting records on what some of that miscellaneous expenditures is. I went in earlier today and I took a look. That's where I could see the credit card fees are in there, the payroll fees, and a lot of smaller items that kind of accumulate to the larger dollar value items. Certainly, the information is there in order to be able to show greater detail than what you see here. Switching gears somewhat, this is the combining balance sheets of the commission, the general fund in the left-hand column, the capital projects fund in the center column, and the total of the two in the third column. I'll just point down towards the bottom of the slide where you see fund balances, deficits, the general fund. As I mentioned before, the sponsor funding is done in a way so that the fund balance will never go into the negative. So that's why you see the general fund balance is zero here at the end of the year. The sponsor funding was trued up, if you will, to make that be the case. In the capital projects fund, slightly different situation. There's a deficit there, an accounting deficit of $347,505, and that represents grants receivable that will come in the future. So the timing of collection on those grants is sometimes unknown, and often it could take years. So we present it this way to not overstate fund balance of the capital projects fund. So the sponsor funding for the capital project is done in such a way where the deficit only matches the amount of the receivables not coming in within the time period during the audit. So that's the $347,000 in the capital projects fund.
Let me just interrupt one thing to make it clear to the public who may see this. When we have a capital expense, for example, that is going to be reimbursed via a grant, whether the grant is 100% or 50%, we lay out the money. So the money is out of our account, and we have to wait for the grant to come in to reimburse that account.
Precisely. So you can see a little more here on the next slide. Same presentation with the 3 columns, except this is the income statement with the general fund in the left, the capital projects in the middle, and the total on the right-hand side. We went through the general fund, so I won't mention that again, but you can see in the capital projects fund, there was state and federal aid recognized as revenue of approximately $305,000. That's grant reimbursements actually received, so that's cash that's actually in the door for the commission. And then if you look further down the slide, you will see all the capital projects fund expenditures was just about $955,000. There's various capital projects that were going on during the course of 2023, and that's the accumulated number of all the dollars spent during the year. And there was a transfer out to the general fund of $45,000 for reimbursing for administrative costs, and then of course the sponsor funding from the town and the city in the amounts of $322,000 and $208,000, bringing the deficit for the year at $165,000, and also the ending deficit to $347,505, as I mentioned from the previous page. And that $347,000 is expected to be received from state and federal sources in future years.
Hopefully not too many years.
Hopefully it's by the end of the year, but especially with FEMA, there's been a lot of FEMA projects we've seen, and just in my experience with other municipalities, sometimes we've seen them take more than a year to close out and for municipalities to get the money. So hence why we do what I would call conservative accounting on the grants. You don't want to recognize revenue for a grant that may take a long time to come in, because in governmental accounting you cannot do that. So that's why the conservative accounting.
Oh, that's all right. By the way, Ruby is our grants administrator, so she has it all in hand pursuing the money on our behalf.
And I'm sure we did spend a lot of time with the grants. There's quite a few grants that the commission is receiving, has received, will receive in the future. It's probably the more complex part of the audit because they need to all be tracked separately, various different capital projects. So there is it's an interesting part of the audit because it's a little more complex, and we kind of have to look at that a little closer and dig in a little further. But again, it's certainly a positive that the commission is receiving all these grants, even though it is an administrative burden to stay on top of them, track them, account for them, and of course, you have to lay out the money before you can get it back, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
With that said, that's all the prepared remarks that I had for this evening. I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone has or comments.
Well, we have two people to potentially question. Emily, Jason, any questions?
No questions here. I think, you know, it's, I think a lot of the questions I would have had are answered, and you know, we thank you for the report.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for the report.
Yeah.
Sorry that we're not there in person, Jeff. I do just want to note, or echo, I guess, Gary's request about, you know, breaking down the miscellaneous a little bit more finely going forward. That would be super helpful. And then also, you know, there was a little bit of a differential with respect to the City of Rye balance that I think we squared away with someone on your team through Debbie, you know, Debbie's correspondence. So I think we're all set there, but it sounds like, you know, things shifted as you did the numbers. I guess specifically, hold on, I'm trying to get my email up. Yes, specifically, where did that go? Sorry.
I know what you're looking for, Emily. That was the, Greg Ussery, the city manager for the City of Rye, had requested some
Right.
clarification, which our accountants gave him. Yeah, I think the issue was that the numbers he was originally working with were draft numbers from April and not the final numbers that are here.
Exactly, right. So these were, yeah, just, exactly. So I think we're all set there. So anyway, thank you so much, Jeff, and
Thank you.
appreciate the report and the time.
I just would reiterate that the numbers that we have here, this just doesn't get buried, because I know that Debbie is working with park staff on ways to decrease, for example, the deficit that we ran on the personnel issues. I'm just getting how you. The personal services line, which had an almost $80,000 differential actual to budget. And those are the things that we can work on. But as you pointed out, the one thing we can't work on is the weather. And we've said over and over again, when you have a beautiful weekends, you make money. And if it rains, or last year we had, if you'll remember, the wildfires in Canada shut the beach down for a period of time, and then there's the rainfall with the bacterial count, where the Department of Health comes in and shut us down last year. They've done it a couple of times this year, but not to the extent I think that we had last year. So we're subject to the vagaries of the weather, and but what we can control is the expense line, which we tried to do, and they work on that all the time. So with that, if there are no other questions, Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. We all appreciate you being here. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn, except for the fact that we can't take a vote. So this meeting, whether you call it formal or informal, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Emily. Appreciate
Thank you, Gary.
your coming here and participating. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary.
Well, before we
Good night,
go, there's one thing. There's a management report. I just wanted to bring everybody up to date before we leave that the beach level bathrooms I don't know if anybody has been there, Emily or Jason. The interior framing is complete, the concrete floors are poured, the plumbers are working, and the electrical should hopefully start next week. People say I'm being overly optimistic, but I think that we can look at a completion date hopefully by the end of September. And I'm hoping before, but I'm gonna throw that one out there.
Excellent.
And we're proceeding with all of our other projects. So thank you all again very much, and we'll see you next month.